Disembodied Podcast. This is Evie Escher. This week's guest is Tracey Whittet, who is an intuitive guide, teacher, and energy healer in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She offers multidimensional body balancing sessions that clear non-beneficial energies on all levels, layers, timelines, and dimensions. Tracey has trained in various energy healing modalities such as multidimensional body balancing, Reiki, access consciousness bars and body facilitation, creative wellness, divine healing hands, Theta Healing, Yuen Method, healing touch, and so on. These trainings have led her to an integrated method called Transmosis. During a session, she records and shares what she sees and hears, and an alchemical clearing occurs. This clears the wounds and disconnects, known or unknown, to the client, and it can help people transform their lives. As a little gift to the audience, Tracey is offering her workbook called The Magi Within as a free download, and that link will be in the show notes for this episode. Sit tight. Here we go. Tracey, welcome to Disembodied Podcast. It's great to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about how you landed in Santa Fe, magical city, and how you got into helping people energetically.
Wow, it's a long story, but I'll try and make it kind of interesting and short. But originally I'm from Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. I lived like the first third of my life there. And then my husband and my kids and our family, we moved out to Colorado and lived there for like 23 years. And then unfortunately, my marriage expired is the nicest way to say it. And I started over by myself here in Santa Fe. So I moved to Santa Fe in April 2016, and I moved into a yurt of all things. It was like a 900 square foot yurt that I was in the mountains in Glorieta, which was like 10, 15 minutes from Santa Fe. And then, I don't know if you've ever been in a yurt, but it's like a huge tent and it gets really warm, in the summertime. So I got a better job, so to speak, and paid better and moved into a house. And so I've been here ever since, the land of enchantment. Santa Fe either embraces you or spits you out. And it's embraced me. I love it here. I've met my soulmate, my twin flame here, and I'm extremely happy. The high desert is very beautiful in its own way. And it's a very spiritual land. A lot of Native Americans, were here first. And then of course the Spanish came in, etc. But Santa Fe is lovely. It's small compared to like the Denver, Boulder area in Colorado and the Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia area. So I love it. I love it here. Yeah, it's great.
I was there a couple of years ago, I think in 2019, and it really is a stunning little town. I mean, it's small compared to where I am in California. We have like endless strip malls and commercial districts and housing tracts, and it's pretty small in Santa Fe. But what I noticed is that there's the most beautiful breeze blowing through there a lot. And there's all those like manzanita trees and stuff. And there's just nice smells in the air. Santa Fe was super dry. And I guess that's the desert side. Where I live, it's quite humid, even though you don't think of California as humid. But I hadn't been there since I was a kid. And I was just really kind of attracted to it. I wish I could live there in a way, at least part-time. But, it's kind of like a 2-hour plane ride, not so cheap to constantly fly back and forth.
Right. Yeah. And we're 7,000 feet high in elevation. And there's not a lot of people on the planet that live at 7,000 at that level. And that's part of the dryness as well. Albuquerque is like an hour south, and that's around 5,000 feet. And that's kind of how Denver was. So I'm kind of used to the high elevation and the dryness. It's a better hair day without the humidity from the East Coast.
Yeah, you're right. It makes my hair very straight, actually, the low humidity.
Right? Yeah, and that's important. But it's very sacred here. I love it here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So how did you get into energy work at all? Did you start with yourself, working on yourself, or did you just somehow, like some people get into like massage therapy and then it kind of graduates. I don't, I never know what angle people are coming from.
Yeah, for me, when I was in Virginia, in Annandale, Virginia, I lived in a neighborhood, and a friend introduced me to this woman, and she did reflexology. So I went to visit her. Her name was Diet. And I look back on it after she passed, I realized, wow, she was my first teacher. So I went to see Diet every Sunday night, and she did some reflexology on me, and I loved it, and it was great. And we studied A Course in Miracles. And every Sunday night, the small group, we'd meditate and we'd discuss how our ego was freaking out, because A Course in Miracles kind of like destroys your ego. And it's like spiritual psychotherapy, as you probably know. And she said that she had some friends in town in Fairfax, Virginia, and he was teaching Reiki, and that I might consider doing that. So in 1983, I took Reiki 1. And that was my first introduction into energy work. And I've always been interested in holistic health. When I was younger, I would be rereading like What Your Doctor Never Told You About Nutrition. I mean, I've always been interested, and I guess it's just innate. It just is something that I'm naturally drawn to. But the energy work seemed to be something that maybe I had it from past lives. I don't really know, but I'm always interested in energy work. For some reason, it's just a natural inclination for me. So about 10 years later, I think it was, because they said in Reiki that if you don't use it, you lose it. That wasn't true for me. So about 10 years later, I was living further out in Virginia on Bull Run Mountain, and there was a woman teaching Reiki 1 and 2. So I took it again and realized that I didn't really have to. I didn't lose it. So it seems to be a natural attunement that I have. And I've always studied energy work. I kid around, and maybe it's not funny, but I call myself an energy work junkie. I just love it. And anything I can do to heal myself, improve myself, and it's always been in the energy realm. And it's kind of funny that, my cousin later in life, probably about 4 years ago, she said, Tracey, you were into all this stuff, and you know what? You were right. And it's like, thank you. Because I felt judged, like nobody else was into it like I was. So I've taken axiotonal, access consciousness bars and body. That's a fabulous work. All of it, whether it's Yuen Method, Theta Healing, all of it. I just love it all. And one day I lived in Longmont, Colorado. So I'm fast forwarding to Colorado. I went to work. From Longmont to Boulder is like a 10-minute drive. And I'm driving to work, and I guess I'm clairaudient, because what I've noticed is any energy work that I do, I seem to share what I hear and I see. And that seems to help people somehow. So it's almost like if you're a little child having a story read to you, you know how you activate your imagination and you can follow along. So I share what I hear and I see, and my eyes are closed when I'm doing this, and somehow it means something to someone, with the recipient of the energy work. So I'm driving from Longmont to Boulder, and I hear, "Call Vicky." And I'm like, what? And this is a woman that lived, in between where I lived and where I worked. So I ended up calling her, and her outgoing message said, "Hi, friends. I'm out camping, but if you want an energy work clearing session, please call Jean." So I was like, oh, I didn't know she did energy work clearing. So I called Jean, and I actually got to receive a session that afternoon. And what I learned was, wow, Jean and Vicky give structure to what I do naturally. So, I'm all over the map as far as just sharing what I hear and I see. But then I ended up taking this course called Multidimensional Body Balancing from Jean and Vicky. And it gave structure and even increased depth to the work that I was doing naturally. So that's kind of like the short story of how I got into energy work and what I'm doing today.
So how do you think you've healed yourself when you were initially just working on yourself?
I would say, as I improved myself, I would improve, number one, my physical health. So I haven't had anything to drink or smoke since 1989. So that was just a conscious choice way back then. Again, being with holistic health. When I was around 25 years old, I took a course called Creative Wellness, and it's holistic stress management, which actually caused me to decide to leave my corporate Xerox job and go to school full time and get my college degree in stress management. And this is a degree that you create yourself, like for those quote unquote mature students. Because I'd been out of college, I'd had 2 years under my belt for a couple years. And I went to George Mason University and created my own degree and took anatomy, physiology, and all of these courses. So through creative wellness, which gave me clues as into my personality, like what were my strengths, what were my weaknesses. And the way that this is discerned is through applied kinesiology, muscle testing. Like your body doesn't lie, it tells you the truth. And so this beautiful woman named Michelle Luson pretty much channeled creative wellness, but she also had a physical scientific study with like an N size of 500 people. And what came out of this was that there were 7 gods and goddesses, personality types, archetypes based on Carl Jungian work. And you learned what colors worked for you. This isn't color me beautiful stuff. It's like energetically. Each person, when they are under stress, and it talks about how your personality affects your health. And so how I healed myself, and I still use those practices today with creative wellness. I don't wear orange. I don't wear green. There's a lot of colors that I don't wear. There's gemstones that I put in my pocket. There's certain foods that work for me. And what happens is when you get muscle tested through the creative wellness program, you discern if you're a thyroid type, if you're an adrenal type, or if you're a pancreas type. And this is a lot of how I healed myself because it had affirmations, it had ritual like incense and colored candles and aromatherapy. I mean, it was a holistic program for creative wellness that helped me. And so again, always taking these energy work courses, you learn how to, I guess, notice and become more aware of your own perspective. And you kind of find out that that's what it's all about, is your own attitude, because healing starts with your own attitude. So I reparented myself. Of course I did psychotherapy and therapy. Like I was married before and I thought, oh my God, I never want to create that pattern again. So I went into psychotherapy, group therapy. I mean, I've done it all, like complementary care medicine, whether it's alternative or the allopathic side of things. And so I'm more inclined towards the etheric, towards the energy works, towards homeopathy, flower essences, Bach flower remedies. So I've kind of like been around the block for a long time, and I just incorporated everything that I do for myself. And then if my family, my children, if they ask me a question, I will share it. Because what I learned, I got really frustrated. I learned that when you overshare and someone doesn't ask you a question, it kind of falls on deaf ears. And it's like frustrating for me. So I've had a lot of readings or channeled experiences, that kind of a thing. And, you just kind of keep learning. And I think the message that I would give everyone is that you just got to trust yourself. And that's what my journey has been about. Because I make it up that you guys all out there in my outer world know what the heck you're doing. And I'm the only one on the planet that doesn't know what's going on, and I find that we're all like first graders running around pretending we're adults, it's like that personality of the facade and then the inner nature. And I'm really interested in awareness and in the dream worlds and spirit. I really, I'm very interested in spirituality, not necessarily religion. I was raised Christian, Presbyterian, that's all fine. But where I really started to embolden myself and envelope myself was knowing and realizing that I'm actually intuitive, and I guess I could say psychic. I don't predict the future, but I work in concert with spirit. I believe that we are vehicles for the divine. And I believe that energy doesn't die, and that, there's karma, there's cause and effect, there's reincarnation, there's a story here. And I'm in my phase of life now where I'm looking at the life and death of it all and the mystery. It's just fascinating to me. And I know, and I've learned for myself, I meditate every morning, and then I've taken it even deeper into contemplation. If you contemplate something, you get the answer, and it's not always what you expect. So you could contemplate love or harmony or peace, for example. And you can call them spirit guides, angels, ascended masters. They will talk to you if you open up the relationship, and because everything is relationship. Everything, your relationship with the divine, your relationship with your friends, with your partner, with your children, with your pets, with the universe, with the trees. I know I'm just kind of like throwing out a big broad net here to answer your question, but I just love it all. And I think everything is energy. And I think that sometimes our attachments and our traumas, they create disconnects in our life. And, we're all talking about being present. I'm going to be in the present moment, but it's not always easy when you have unconscious energetics that are in your DNA system or in your own memory, in your own life, that filter into this present moment. Because I can say that I worry about the future and I regret the past sometimes, but through this energy work and this life experience that I've had, I realize that we're all doing the best that we can. And I think sometimes people come into this lifetime to rest. I did not. I came into this lifetime to mop up all my karma and be the best person I can be in this embodiment now. And I like to be able to be of service to humanity and service to one another, because I can't think of a greater service other than to display love and be love. And I'm not talking fake love, fake facade. I'm talking real deep, energetic, the essence of everything that we are and who we are is love. And there's lots of different frequencies to that. Is it bliss? Is it joy? Is it healing? So I'll do anything to heal. Short note there. I will do anything to heal. And for me, I just do a lot of introspection, and I take responsibility for my feelings. I don't love emotion. I don't love grief, but I've had a lot of it. I've had friends, family, parents die. Grief is not my favorite emotion. So what I'm learning to do in my life in this moment is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, which isn't fun sometimes.
It intrigued me, some of the things you've said. Let's go back to the color thing.
Sure.
It's funny because I've had, I find myself buying sometimes yarn in a certain color. Like there's a certain hue of blue that I find almost like transformative. It's really weird. But if I'm in like a yarn shop, I knit sometimes, and not a lot really, but when I do buy yarn or buy, let's say clothing even, there are certain hues of colors that it's like there's something in that I need. I don't know if it's healing or it's some sort of spiritual connection to that color. I don't know what it is, but I found that with certain shades of blue, and scarlet is another one. I really like the colors of India. They tend to, the women in particular, wear those beautiful choli tops and saris, and just the most beautiful, vibrant, electric colors you could ever see. Those colors, the magentas, the scarlets, I'm so attracted to those colors. They just immediately make me, I don't know, want to live more furiously or something. I don't know how to explain it. They make me want to, it's like a life force. It generates life force in me, those colors. That's the only way I can explain it. How would somebody determine, other than maybe their own experience, how would they determine what colors are right for them? I mean, what was your process? Because I'm not sure you detailed it enough.
Okay. In the Creative Wellness Program, you have your personality typed. And the first thing they do is your tester, let's say, you would stand and you would test the left deltoid muscle. So your left arm is stretched out. And then you'd have your tester, your chiropractor, your friend, yourself, if you can muscle test yourself, you would place the tester would place their fingers on the thyroid, on those reflex points, and they would say, resist. They would push lightly on your wrist to see if your arm would dip down or stay strong. If your arm stayed strong at the thyroid point, then you are a thyroid type and you stop testing. Thyroid types typically genetically have family members that have had cancer in their bloodline. Thyroid types are typically, in their strengths, are very competitive leaders, natural communicative abilities, that kind of a thing. And you think about it systemically. So the thyroid has to do with controlling metabolism. So what is cancer? It's kind of metabolism gone haywire, right? So there's a whole system to this. But let's say that I tested weak for the thyroid. My arm went down. So the next place that you would go to test yourself or have someone test you is the adrenal point, which is right above your hip, above your kidney. Your adrenals are on top of your kidneys. So you would have your tester would touch the adrenal point, the reflex point, and say, resist. The arm would either stay strong or go weak. If it stayed strong, then you know that you're a thyroid type and you stop testing. But let's say it went weak. So I'm going to go to the third type, the pancreas type. So you find the belly button. And when you're facing someone's belly button, you kind of go up an inch and a little to the left. That would be the pancreas testing point, the enzyme point. And you would say resist. And it would go strong or stay strong or go weak. So for me, I will speak to me because I'm an adrenal type. So, we tested thyroid, it went weak. We tested adrenal, it went strong. So then we stop because we don't need to go test the pancreas point. And then we would test the pituitary point, which would be in the center of the forehead. And we would say resist. And then if my arms stayed strong there, then we'd know that I was, and I am, the iris type. It's the goddess of the rainbow, the natural intuitive. So I learned a lot about myself. I'm like, wow, I get my strengths and weaknesses. It's kind of like a little mini horoscope, it was really fun. And through all of the work that Michelle, she kind of has a board of directors in the etheric realm of surgeons and doctors and stuff. It's like downloaded material. And then it was tested in matter, meaning with an N size of 500 people. And then they would discern through those body types what works for you. So an adrenal type's protein is like chicken and turkey. That you think about it when you're sick, your immune system with the adrenals. The adrenals also have to do with your circulatory system. So in my life, in my heredity genetic patterning, is my parents had circulatory disease, heart attack, peripheral artery disease, stroke, that kind of a thing. So you look at it systemically. And so there's 7 goddesses and 7 gods, personality types. Because if I was a male and I was an adrenal type, when we test the ovaries or the testes, you of course put your hand in front of the body, not touching the physical body. So if my pituitary went weak when they muscle tested me, then we would go to the ovaries or the testes, depending on whether I was male or female. So there's similarities between male and female, but obviously the hormones are different. And each personality type has one avoidance color, because you liked the color part, and it is really fun. And it's similar to your energy, your aura is missing that color in it. It's a resonance thing. It's not a color me beautiful thing. So for me, being Iris, my avoidance color is Kelly green. And I would wear Kelly green color, but when you muscle tested my body with it, it would weaken it. But I could have Kelly green in my environment. I could look at it like in my house, the walls, or a plant, or, some kind of, curtains or something, but wearing it on my body would short circuit me. So what colors work for you? Well, there's balancer colors, securing colors. You would get a whole little chart of what works for you. And then you'd have inspiring colors and protectors. So it was just a whole comprehensive system that I tell you was way ahead of its time. Even when I lived in Longmont, I tried to teach this to some of the complementary care hospitals, and it was still too woo-woo for them. So I don't know, she brought this through in the early 80s. So she had a book. I think it's out of print now. It's called Creative Wellness by Michelle Lusson, Lusson. She's a doctor of divinity. She's probably in her 80s now. So it was very instrumental in my life. And I am an instructor and a teacher of this program, and I do want to bring it out. And I would really like it if the world was ready. Now, yeah.
I think now would be a good time.
I think so. It is time. It's been years.
That's so interesting. I guess my experience with anything even remotely similar was somebody draped me with color, and it was the color me beautiful type thing. Yeah, I noticed that certain colors when I was in my 20s, I noticed that certain colors looked very flattering on me, clothing wise. But what I noticed as I got older, I noticed that certain colors just like energize and enliven me, or maybe make me think of spirituality. So it's even more meaningful. I don't know. Maybe I figured it out.
I think intuitively people know they feel good in something or not. Like I remember as a kid, elementary school, I think I had some kind of a chocolate brown peasant top or something. I forget what it was, but I always felt really good in it. And then when I took the Creative Wellness program and found out I was Iris, goddess of the rainbow, one of my balancing colors was chocolate brown. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And I really didn't have a lot of Kelly green, so I naturally didn't wear that color,
Actually, Kelly green looks pretty good on me. That was always a good color when they draped me. So I don't know.
I met Carol Jackson, that Color Me Beautiful lady, because she was in Northern Virginia. And they were looking for spring types. Yeah. And I thought I was a spring. And she says, no, you're a summer. I'm like, okay, I like being a summer. I thought I was a spring, but I guess I'm not a spring. Okay. Because apparently those are rare or something. So anyway, that was fun with the color stuff.
So what do you think you're helping people with currently? How are you helping people besides using, energetic healing techniques? How do you think are you connecting to their guides, do you think, or your guides more while you're helping?
It's both. So that was a great question. One time in Colorado, I was working with a woman doing Reiki. And while I had my hands on her torso, clairaudiently, I heard the word transmosis. I'm like, what? So I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget it, being kind of like in the session, but I didn't want to forget that word because I didn't know what it meant. And I asked everyone, what does it mean? And nobody knew. So I started looking up the root words like transformation, trans, and then osmosis, the mosis part. And nobody could tell me. So bottom line, I finally just went in and asked Spirit. And Spirit tells me that this is what transmosis means. An unconscious transfer and assimilation of higher frequencies to raise the recipient's energy to equal the source energy. Now, I don't talk like that, so that's why I know that that was kind of like channeled information. So who do I work with? I work with 100% pure divine light. And I think that I can't say, oh, I work with Saint Germain and Archangel Michael. I mean, it's definitely the white brotherhood, of higher frequencies. But I've also learned of other ascended masters besides Lady Nada and all of the beings that we've heard of, or many people have heard of. I also work with the ECK ascended masters, the Viragi masters, and they are a group of ascended masters. Viragi means detachment, that I had not heard of before. But there is a master named Gopal Das. I'll spell it. G as in George, O, P as in Peter, A-L. And then the second word is Das, D-A-S-S, D as in dog. And I found this curious because my whole life, whenever there was a really interesting, powerful spiritual experience going on, like Tony Robbins walking across the hot coals kind of thing and doing that human technology, I would see this blonde guy on the inner, and I didn't know who it was. Is it Metatron? Is it this? Is that? So when I'm learning how to do multidimensional body balancing, I see a picture of an ascended master on Vicky and Jean's wall, and it's Gopal Das. Gopal Das taught Vicky directly, transmission directly, this multidimensional body balancing work. So how I'm helping people today is every morning, number one, I contemplate and meditate, and I call in 100% pure divine light. That was something that was so interesting. The first time I had a clearing by Jean and Vicky, they called in 100% pure divine light. So I had the intention of that, but I never really verbalized it before. And there was a changing of the guard. There was literally my guides that were fake or weren't 100% pure divine light had to leave, because we as humans are so powerful that when we command it, it happens. When we speak it, it happens. That's how powerful we are. So a session with an individual is I call in, let's say, your guides of 100% pure divine light. And then I call in my guides of 100% pure divine light. And we ask for your highest and greatest good for yourself and for all concerned. And then I consecrate the session by saying, let's take our mental bodies and our egos outside of this consecrated space so that we can both, because it's co-creative, we can both be as close as possible to pure divine consciousness. And I ask you before we start the session, what would you like to work on physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? Now, in my class, the body work class with multidimensional body balancing, there were so many avenues. And like I talked about in the beginning, structure of what we're doing. So etheric clearing, spirit mending, multidimensional body balancing, transmosis. It's all kind of love. It's all the same thing, but this is in the etheric realms where we have many bodies. We have the physical, supraphysical. We have the astral, which is your emotional body. You have the causal body, which is your Akashic records, your memories. You have your mental body, all your thoughts. You have your etheric body, which are your higher thoughts. And then you have a soul body. But what I learned with this is that you can tell me what you want to work on all those levels, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And I will take this map that I created, basically everything I learned in the multidimensional body balancing class, I put on one piece of paper. And then I call in your guides, my guides, and I ask what's in your highest and greatest good. And then I muscle test against everything that's on this map. Because oftentimes people come in and they go, I don't know, you just do whatever spirit wants. It's like, wow, okay. They're not conscious perhaps of what's going on and what they need help with. So I compare your list with my list. We talk about it outside of our bodies. We have an inner world and an outer world, and we're speaking about it. We've called in the guides of 100% pure divine light. And it's almost like we throw this up into the energetic soup. And then my voice, my one voice is for all of that. And I ask, please show me what is in your highest and greatest good. And I will hear, clear the mother side of the family 20 generations back. All of our wounds and disconnects that happen in our life, it's kind of like energy gets stuck in the past. And you want to clear it out so that you can be present, like we talked about in the beginning of our conversation. And I don't do the work. I just get to be the observer and the witness, and the light and the guides of 100% pure divine light actually do the clearing. But I record the session so that the recipient can just relax and receive. And I send the audio recording so that they don't have to pay attention too much and do too much work, and they can listen to it later. And then the healing and the clearing goes even deeper. And what's kind of interesting is that 80% of the time, if we have a wound or a disconnect, that usually gets stored in either the nervous system, the endocrine system, or the chakra system. And it's all one thing. But if you looked at our body like it was a hologram, because it is, you can look at, okay, spirit, tell me, what do we need to work on? Well, pull up the etheric body of the nervous system and look at it and see where there might be some darkness, because spirit and soul is in everything. And you just want to return it to life. And so it's very difficult to talk about because it's invisible, but it's happening. I mean, 1% of us is physical and 99% is invisible. It's similar to, like, I call it like soul homeopathy or spiritual hygiene. We're cleaning up our energy so that we can be more whole, because that's the idea, is to be completely whole and present and balanced. So we're balancing, harmonizing, and uplifting energies is a long around way of saying what the session would be like. And people feel better. And I don't want to just say they feel better, because sometimes if you're talking about wholeness, how do you specifically say, oh, my right arm doesn't hurt anymore? I mean, sometimes those things do happen, but it's not up to me and it's not up to you. It's up to the guides of 100% pure divine light as to what is in your highest and greatest good. Because I can't say that I know, but I will share what I hear and I see. And somehow through that storyline, when I'm sharing what I'm witnessing in the clearing, it is alchemy. It helps people become clearer, more harmonized, more whole, more present. That's what I'll stop there, unless you have another question.
Well, I think, it's interesting. As you were saying that, I was thinking that it's hard to know what the highest and greatest good for somebody would be ultimately, because we're at the human level and there's another level of intelligence higher than ours, many levels probably. And sometimes I think that illnesses and maybe even handicaps, different things that we deal with, are there for a reason, maybe to illuminate us in another way. So it is kind of like, you can ask for healing, but you may not always get it the way you think you're going to get it. I think I understand that notion pretty well. It's weird because at times I've had some minor health issues, and I kind of would forget. I'd be treating them on the physical side, I really don't like going to the doctor, because the doctor just prescribes things. And many times I think prescriptions don't even work, by the way. That's not to say that nothing works, but I would find myself getting really worried about a medical issue or whatever. And all of a sudden it would dawn on me, why don't you just ask for spiritual help? Because that might be a little bit more powerful. And it very often, is overwhelmingly powerful. And then sometimes it doesn't work very well. And maybe because it's a learning process I have to go through, maybe I have to realize something through going through that medical situation. I'm not really sure. But I've learned to clear my home energy a lot, and I've been doing that more lately. It's weird. Like now I'm having the response myself where I'm like, okay, whenever I start to feel kind of bad about anything, I clear my home energy. All of a sudden things seem easier, seem to be working better, like instantly when I do that. And it's not even sage.
Yep.
Sage, I think, has some effect on maybe different situations, but I do like a consecration of my house. And that is a much more powerful effect. And I find that it's helping me, not only is it clearing like any medical issues I've had, but it's also motivating me to finish things I haven't finished, like projects and stuff. So it's working on different levels. And I think that healing is great, but I guess there are always some limitations, and you may not know why that person has to even go through any suffering or any limitations, right? Physical limitations, but maybe there is a reason for it sometimes.
Yes. And I do not want to create karma for myself or another. I trust the divine, the 100% pure divine light, and that person's journey is their responsibility. And it's like with my son, my child, I would love to take pain away from him, but that's how we grow, is to go through our own life initiations that we kind of forget that we create everything that's going on. And maybe we came into this lifetime with karma that we need to mop up, like just how it is when you meet someone and you like them instantly, and you meet someone and you don't like them instantly. What's the reason behind that? I don't know, but I trust that. And there might be a different timeline or something, because we're clearing everything holographically that is up in the moment, that is for that person's highest and greatest good. I mean, that's the truth. You want it to be for their highest and greatest good, not only for themselves, but for all concerned. And Gopal Das brought through these amazing clearing statements that help people. Like, for example, like if you use the violet flame to clean, clear, cleanse, heal, harmonize, and balance, whatever you're witnessing, you can scramble, neutralize, and dissolve all negative holographic feeling pictures. You can transform and transmute with the purple transmuting flame. But you know how the universe likes a vacuum. Once you clear all this stuff out, you don't want anything to fill it back up that isn't of high frequency. So then you heal and seal it with liquid golden light. These wounds look like downward spirals in your field. And it can be in your bodies. It could be in your toroidal axis, the center of you. It could be in the chakra system. Sometimes you have issues that happen and your energetic body gets pushed in like the cone, like it should be an upward spiral. It should be facing outwards like a megaphone, if you will, with the chakra. And you just command the violet light to clean, clear, cleanse, heal, harmonize, and balance it. And what's so cool is it does it. So that's what I'm getting back to, is our self-responsibility and our power within our own self to choose healing. And again, sometimes, that's what I was talking about earlier with the life and death and the mystery of life. I just got this. And this sounds so egotistical, but it's like, I'm not in charge. The essence is in charge. Our divinity is in charge. Spirit is in charge. My higher power, whatever words you want to call it. But we are co-creative and we want to take action. And the way that we take action is changing our attitude. That's the first step in healing, like choosing to want to change.
And do you think that there are people you've tried to help that really didn't want to be helped in a way? Because there must be some blocks with people sometimes, like at an emotional level, sometimes I'm not sure they're always ready to change or be healed. You know what I mean?
I do. And I think that's really true. There are people that just want you to do it for them. And it's like, that's not my role. I really feel like my role is to give you some tools to do it for yourself. So every morning I settle, I meditate, contemplate, I call in 100% pure divine light. And I ask for my highest and greatest good to be done for myself and for all concerned. And one of the things people could do is just to breathe. Like we could breathe in and out of our heart chakra, because some people just want you to do it for them. But I want to give people tools so that they can empower themselves, because that's really what it's about. It's your own sacred journey. And so one thing I think is beautiful is the breath, because you can actually breathe in through the front and the back of your heart chakra. And when you're breathing in, it's almost like the divine or spirit or God, co-creator, is exhaling. And then when you breathe out and exhale, the divine is inhaling. It's just, everything is relationship. Everything is connection. And when we connect our entire physical body with all those other etheric bodies, with our systems, because each and every body has one of those endocrine systems, those nervous systems. So I never get bored, so to speak, with this work, because it changes and each individual is different. But we all do have wounds and disconnects that we can actually remedy. And I personally feel, and I think this is true physically or in physics, that if you heal, let's say I have a physical ailment going on, I think it did manifest further out, meaning in my emotional body or my mental body or my spirit body. And then I finally manifested in my spirit body. But if I could, in my physical body, but if I could go to the source and find out why do I have this condition? Now, it took many years, maybe for some people, to have a certain condition manifest in their body. And we do our best to clear it, but it's not like energy. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't want to limit anybody, because in access consciousness, what I learned is that we are this expanded energy. And a great example of that would be when someone judges me, or I feel like someone's judging me energetically. I can just feel it because I'm empathic. I usually contract in fear, like, oh no, and try and hide or whatever. I get smaller. But what I learned, this is a great tool that Access taught, was you expand your energy. You just get really, really, really big. And then it's like turning on a light switch in a dark room. It just goes away. It doesn't matter anymore. When you are in your absolute highest and greatest frequency and expandedness, it's like looking back at the earth and trying to get to that little nitty gritty feeling that you have. It doesn't matter as much. It's not as important. It doesn't have as much amperage. It doesn't have as much potency. So the whole key is to rebalance each other, love each other, be kind to ourselves, be kind to each other. And I stay away from the news. I do my best to not be Pollyanna and live in my own reality, but yet I kind of do. Santa Fe's like that. I just do my best. And I think that's what each and every one of us are doing. But then again, there's different paths in life. Like I worked in the prison system for a while in quality, not in the prison itself, but in the, regional office. And it's like, how did these people get here? What did they think? What did they experience? What was their conditioning? It opens up my heart with deep compassion. And when I would walk into a prison, when I had to, I would actually call in the light of 100% and ask for protection, because it was kind of scary. It's not a normal environment for me. And so that exists, is what I'm saying. The dark exists, but it never prevails the light. If you have a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10, 10 is the light and 9 and below is the dark. And the dark never prevails. The light always wins. And so we just need to polish ourselves up, and use the light and use our guidance. We're not here alone. It's a collaborative, co-creative effort. We are divine humans. We are human, yes, but we have a divine part, which is what I loved about that creative wellness program, because our strengths are basically the divine parts of us, and our weaknesses, so to speak, that many of us identify with our shadows and such, is our human part. But if you overcome your weaknesses with your strengths, with your divinity, with your higher frequency, you don't get as sick. You don't attract as many negative experiences. And that's the part about self-responsibility. And I don't mean that like it's homework, but it's true. We're co-creators and we can create our reality how we like. And there might be some times when you need help to help clear some things out. That's why people go to doctors. That's why people go to not doctors necessarily. Sorry, no offense to doctors, but we don't want prescriptions. We want to do it ourselves and do it as natural as possible, and just get that natural support, complementary support.
That's golden advice, I think. If you just kind of live in better balance with yourself, sometimes life just becomes easier. You're not throwing yourself in front of you constantly as an obstacle. I mean, I think people create their own obstacles. I realized I created a lot of my own in the past, and I'm kind of getting better at recognizing when I'm throwing myself in front of that footstep forward that I want to take. So healing isn't just about overcoming physical maladies. It's about getting in a better relationship with yourself so that you can support a better life situation, I guess. Live life more fully, basically.
Exactly. That's wholeness. Yeah, I agree. And we need support sometimes.
Yeah, we do need support. We need support from other humans, from the spirit side, pets.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Totally.
So is there anything you do besides meditation that you might want to put out there as like a daily ritual that is beneficial?
I think connecting with nature is a great teacher, a great balancer. Yes, I eat right. I do organic as much as possible, try and do the fruits and vegetables. So the enzymes can activate the vitamins that can activate all the molecular activity in our body, the hormones and all the chemical messengers. So I do everything I can nutritionally that I know of, that I learned through creative wellness and through life experience and what feels good with my body. And I ask questions, because when you ask questions, it expands the energy and you get the answer. So I ask questions like, why am I feeling so uncomfortable right now? And if I don't know, I will reach out for help, or I will do my own process of transmosis healing on myself, which really is great. So meditation, nutrition is very important to me. And I think that it helps create wholeness, as well as movement. You can call it exercise, but even if you're just walking in nature, getting natural sunlight in your body, not like you have. I'm very fair skinned, so walking in this 7,000 elevation is difficult for the sun, but you need the vitamin D, and then that light going through your optic nerve, like going through your eyes to feed your brain. I mean, there's so many natural things. But the most important thing I want to say is you can ask yourself, you can ask your body and your guides of 100% pure divine light, what is it that you want to do? And for me, I have given myself permission to not hang out with people that I don't feel comfortable or good with anymore. That's really hard for me because I'm steadfast in relationship, and to let go of friends that no longer serve me in my life because I don't feel good. I don't know the reason why, but sometimes you just have to let them go, and that happens naturally. So I say, be in concert with nature, be a co-creator with nature, and trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your inner knowing. The inner worlds, whether it's dreams and journaling, I do journaling, when I remember my dreams, all of that is just, it's like being in relationship with the chi field. It's like being in relationship, which is everything, with the universe, with my body, with my emotions, with my thoughts, and being fully accountable for them. And that creates a lot of spiritual freedom, which I think is what we would all enjoy and have here while we're on the planet. And just to live your best life, get enough rest, enough sleep. What is it? There is no I in wellness. It's we, wellness, and then illness is I, illness. It's like, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. It kind of sounds like a rah-rah inspirational talk, but it's really how I try and live my best life. And if I want chocolate, I eat chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything has its moderation and its excess, right? You try to stay away from the excess, favor moderation.
You got it. You're great at summing up all the truth.
I was just thinking chocolate. I don't buy it too often anymore for a reason.
Well, willpower is important.
Yeah. I mean, my mom
Right.
and I laugh because it's like whenever we know there's chocolate in the house, we're going to sniff it out. Even if you hide it from yourself, you're going to find it easily.
Right. I know. But that's like my drug, if you will. That's my party.
It's a pretty good drug. I mean, it really isn't that bad unless you're eating a ton of it, you know.
Exactly.
Well, Tracey,
Yeah.
thanks so much for sharing. Those are good tips for people in general, I think. Good, healthy
Thank you.
lifestyle management tips. We'll put a link to your website in the show notes for this episode so people can use your services if they're so inclined.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Oh, and I have a free gift for the listeners. So on the website, you just go to traceywhittet.com/book, because I'm an author of a book called The Magi Within, Unlocking the Gifts of the Inner Self, myself and 2 other authors. And it's available on Amazon, but you can download the PDF if you want. It's free from my website. So that's just a little bonus there.
Okay, wonderful. People will make good use of that, I'm sure.
Feel free to leave questions or comments for this episode at disembodiedpodcast.com.